Hello and welcome to another session of the My Solo 401k Financial Daily Webinar Series. Today we're here to discuss how to buy Perplexity Pre-IPO stock in your solo 401k. If you're watching us on Instagram or LinkedIn or X or YouTube, please subscribe as we go live twice a day. That way you'll get notifications, and when you go live, you can come and ask questions. Just be sure to be able to check out the content that we share every day. Today, we're diving into one of the most exciting yet often complex investment opportunities out there, pre-IPO stock with your solo 401k. If you're self-employed with a solo 401k, you have a unique advantage to potentially invest in high growth private companies like Perplexity AI, unlocking significant wealth opportunity. So here's the roadmap. We're going to discuss just the concept of investing in pre-IPO stock, the mechanics of how to invest in pre-IPO stock like Perplexity AI, and some of the key considerations and risks in investing in pre-IPO stock with your solo 401k. The presentation is being provided for educational purposes only and should not be construed as tax, legal, or investment advice, nor is a solicitation. When making an investment decision, please consult with your tax attorney and financial professional. Now, if you do have questions or topics on this topic or other topics, please don't hesitate to chat over questions and topics, as we really appreciate the chance to discuss these topics or other topics as well. We want to use it as an open forum. So now let's jump in to today's topic, which again is how to invest your solo 401k in pre-IPO Perplexity stock. Now, to lay the foundation, what is a solo 401k? Well, it's a self-employed retirement plan. In other words, it's for self-employed individuals with no full-time W-2 employees other than a spouse, if any. So it's really an owner-only 401k plan. It's going to be available regardless of how the individual's business is taxed. The key is that you are reporting earned self-employment income with no non-owner, non-spouse, full-time W-2 employees working for any business owned by such person or a spouse, if any. So if your business is operated as a sole prop or a partnership or an S or a C corp, that's fine, as long as you report that earned self-employment income with no non-owner, non-spouse, full-time W-2 employees. Now, there's a number of benefits that become available to someone that's self-employed and therefore eligible to set up a solo 401k. Number one, it has the highest contribution limits for any defined contribution plan available to self-employed individuals. And if you have a plan like ours that allows for pre-tax as well as Roth and even mega backdoor Roth contributions, you could diversify from a tax perspective. In other words, you could make some pre-tax and additional Roth, or some years you could do all pre-tax, other years do all Roth and mega backdoor Roth. Once the money's in the solo 401k, you're also going to have diversification, the maximum diversification opportunities from an investment perspective as well, because our plan not only allows for typical brokerage type investments, but also true alternative investments, whether it's real estate, private stock, cryptocurrency, as well as pre-IPO stock like Perplexity. So now let's zoom in and discuss more in terms of the considerations generally when it comes to investing your self-directed solo 401k. Since we want to focus on alternative investments like pre-IPO stocks such as Perplexity. So you need to have a plan like ours that allows for investing in alternative investments, whether it's real estate, private equity, crypto, individual, private company stock. But you're, of course, going to have to make sure that you satisfy the investment rules. So, for example, there are certain prohibited transactions. For example, there's no self-dealing that's allowed. Ultimately, when you're investing your solo 401k, it needs to be for investment purposes, not a personal benefit. Some of the key prohibitions would be no personal use of plan assets. that's easy to understand, for example, in the context of real estate, right? So you might be able to invest in a real estate rental property, such as a vacation home, but you can't use it for personal use. There's no de minimis exception either. When it comes to investing in companies, you can't invest in your own business or in business or a business that's owned by a close family member. There's also certain classes of investments that are prohibited, like collectibles. It's also not allowed to invest in S corporation stock because the S corporation rules wouldn't allow for the stockholder of an S corporation to be a retirement account. Compliance, of course, is paramount, right? For example, all investment related expenses need to be paid from the solo 401k. Also, ongoing compliance. And we are very instrumental in our support, our compliance support. So not only educating customers on the rules, but also handling the mechanics of compliance going forward. So for example, once the value of the plan exceeds $250,000, there's going to be an informational filing requirement, which is referred to as a Form 5500EZ. And ultimately, it's important because non-compliance can lead to plan disqualification and immediate taxation. So now let's zoom in a little bit more, specifically focusing on pre-IPO stock like Perplexity. So just generally speaking, when it comes to investing in pre-IPO stock, that's going to refer to investing in a secondary marketplace, such as Forge Global, right? Forge Global is a leading secondary marketplace for private growth equity. They connect buyers and sellers of private company stock like Perplexity. Now, in order to invest in these marketplaces, the individual needs to be an accredited investor. So, right, that begs the question, okay, well, what is the accredited investor requirements? So there's going to be a number of requirements and ways to qualify, but your standard way to qualify is either via income or net worth. So for example, income greater than 200,000 in the case of an individual, 300,000 in the case of a couple filing jointly, or net worth excluding primary residence greater than $1 million. Now, for someone who is eligible because they're an accredited investor, they can then open up an account at Forge. And so if you're using your solo 401k funds to invest in pre-IPO stock, you would need an account opened up under the name and EIN number of the solo 401k. So a solo 401k is really a separate legal entity. It's a trust that holds your retirement account. So it will have its own EIN number. As part of the onboarding process, we obtain an EIN number for the solo 401k, right? So that the IRS understands that any tax reporting done with respect to this EIN number is being done with respect to a 401k. So income that might be reported, therefore the IRS understands is growing on a tax deferred basis. So the process, of course, would be opening and funding an account at Forge for your solo 401k. You may fund it by making contributions. Remember, the solo 401k has the highest contribution limits for any defined contribution plan available to self-employed individuals. You can also fund it by rolling over money from a pre-existing retirement account, such as a former employer plan or a non-Roth IRA. And of course, we help our customers on both fronts, whether we're educating them on how much they can contribute or we're helping them roll over money from pre-existing retirement accounts, like a former employer plan or a non-Roth IRA. So now let's zoom in more with respect to the specific requirements and mechanics when it comes to investing pre-IPO stock at Forge Global. So typically there's going to be a minimum investment requirement, for example, of $100,000. Now, there may be opportunities at a lower investment amount if you're investing via an SPV. Transaction fees, typical, again, we're just giving general information here. You're going to want to investigate the specifics when it comes to a particular investment that you want to make, but your typical fees are 2 to 4% if it's a direct secondary, whereas if it's investing via an SPV, the fees can be higher, up to 5% or more. Now, there may be additional requirements that apply to a specific investment. So for example, there may be uh, right of first refusal or other company approvals. And the impact of that practical impact of that is that it could extend the time, right? Your typical time frame is around 50 days. But if you have company approvals of right of first refusal requirements, that could be extended out to several months. Now let's discuss and at least highlight some of the key considerations and risks when it comes to private market investing. So number one would be illiquidity and long holding periods, right? By definition, a pre-IPO stock is not on an established public exchange where you're going to have the ability to quickly buy and sell your investment. It may be difficult to find buyers, ultimately leading to potentially much longer holding periods where your capital is tied up potentially for months. There might be valuation volatility, lack of transparency, right? Valuations may fluctuate based on market demand, company performance, funding rounds. And couple that with the fact that private companies have fewer public disclosure obligations, which is going to necessitate thorough due diligence. And as we talked about on the prior page, there may be additional requirements that apply to a specific company investment, like those company approvals, right of first refusal, etc. All right, great. Well, that's what we wanted to come and share today. We appreciate the opportunity. If you're finding this to be helpful, please like on whatever platform you're on. That helps us to get the word out to other self-employed individuals like yourself, other freelancers, other solopreneurs, or share with others that might find this to be helpful. We also want to invite you to not only subscribe so you get notifications of when we go live, but also invite you to our community. We have over 30,000 members. It's a vibrant community. We have forums. We have a library of videos and webinars. So there's a lot of great ways to learn and to share the knowledge. All right, wonderful. Again, well, we appreciate the chance to discuss these topics. Please continue to engage. And until next time, thank you so much.